All right, gentlemen. I'd like to start off with the first question. What is the relationship between faith, science, and reason?
The relationship with faith, science, and reason.
A common misconception in theology is that you either believe in science or you believe in God. But I've come to find that that's not true at all.
Francis Collins says, one of the greatest tragedies of our time is this impression that has been created that science and religion have to be at war.
At first, I thought that there was no way that faith and science could have any sort of working together, but now I only see it that way. I only see that faith and science work together.
So personally, I see a pretty good connection between faith, science, and reason. A few of the lines from this course that actually stood out to me being the tree comes to me, truth can't contradict truth, and truth resists simplicity. I think all of these have helped me and just explain the understandable basis behind these complexities and the origin of our universe.
The three levels of reality: the primary reality, which is the objective world, science, what is true, what is really there. The secondary reality, the subjective world, which is the way we perceive that. And then the metaphysical reality, which is faith and stuff that is not tangible to us.
For example, reason is secondary reality, and math falls into that category. And we use math to explain parts of science, which sort of show the interconnectedness between all of these ideas. And also, philosophy is also connected, as we can use rationality to explain how there's room for God in the universe.
An example, this is the classic one. We know that because of experiments that have been done in the past, we know that matter cannot be created or destroyed in our universe. And we know that there are laws to the universe that we live in, laws that can't be broken. Through science, we see that the universe is constantly expanding with primary reality observations. You can see that the universe has had a beginning. And so it brings up the question that how was there a beginning when matter cannot be created or destroyed? For that to be a law, which it is, and for there to be no God, it just, the things are what they are, just out of randomness. It wouldn't be possible, because things need to cause other things to happen. But we see that with the Big Bang, the start of our universe, that is just an exception. It's a huge question mark.
So beyond that, another scientific fact that points towards God's existence is the Borg-Lincoln and Guth statement that the universe must have had a mathematical beginning, indicating that some force must have started it, which I think is pretty convincing for me. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big breakthrough, especially for contrary to the atheist argument, because it means something had to have started it. I know there are arguments about quantum physics, how something can come out of nothing, but we decided that the nothing that they say something comes out of isn't nothing at all, because nothing would be something. So right. The real idea that something comes out of a true nothing can only be achieved through some supernatural force,
divine intervention,
which we attribute to God.
Right.
So there's always going to be a beginning. Nothing spawns out of nothing, and it's kind of just illogical. And in terms of the BVG theorem, which we mentioned before, they proved using mathematics that everything must have a beginning if it has a certain constant value, which our universe does.
Where did everything actually originate? I'm trying to think. Because everything could have been here before, and it expands and collapses back, and expands and collapses back over and over again.
Well, how did it get there the first time?
That's the question. So that's the question.
Especially if math can prove otherwise.
Right, but then also, if nothing can be created, how was God just out of nowhere to create all
God
matter?
is existence.
He is existence, but where did existence create himself?
Is.
Can he create himself?
I am.
He is I am.
Yeah, he created himself.
He created himself.
And he is
Yahweh.
That's the best way of explaining it.
Yeah. I think we come to an agreement.
God is the one who created science. God is the one who created the universe. God is the one who created everything, objective, subjective, everything. God created the mind as well. So the mind is what makes things subjective.
Science is nice because it only works with primary reality, things that are tangible, not subjective at all.
Like, I got my physical body. It's kind of hard to say that doesn't exist. But then there's all the stuff that you can't see, like the mind and the spirit. I know I got a mind because I think about stuff. I can confidently say that I have a spirit because of the unexplainable references that we have for the 5 perfect transcendental desires and the vertical data that has been gathered from near-death experiences that points heavily towards the idea that there is a soul.
The best miracle arguments are the few that he brought up in class that are like somebody died and saw like a serial number on something that they wouldn't have been able to see before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they checked it and it was true. Or like a shoe on a roof or something like that.
Near-death experiences are miracles that have been proven with veridical data.
We as humans, we have a consciousness that's different than any other creature on Earth. And so the fact that we are aware of our own awareness on a functional mechanical level wouldn't be possible without some sort of metaphysical cause.
My soul and body have this weird relationship where they aren't separate. My soul is the form of my body, which means that it makes my body what it is. There are two things that can't be separated, which is what dualism incorrectly does.
You know, the soul makes the body be what it is. And these things make my soul happy, my body, mind, spirit, they're all connected. Although you can only see my body physically, like on the outside, my soul and mind are me too. And catering to one is catering to both of them. Like Mr. Webb taught us, the tree comes to me.
The tree comes to me, no matter what my opinion is on the matter.
The truth is the truth. Truth cannot contradict itself. There is only one truth, and that truth is true across all levels of reality.
We find truth in our faith through the truth of the universe and God, through science.
Although they might appear to be in conflict, we still need to remember that truth resists simplicity.
Especially regarding the problems such as evolution, it's for sure not the case.
We see that as we keep going into the evolution of life, right, with DNA. And so the DNA and everything in our body is structured in such a way to carry out a purpose. It's not just a random. It's not random. And so we see this question just coming up everywhere in our universe, and there's no trying to get away with it.
Evolution is a miracle where a single piece of life can develop into humans, which are these complex heuristic beings.
And according to Pope Francis, evolution in nature is not inconsistent at all with the notion of creation, and evolution requires the creations of being that evolve. So I think that's an important distinction, that both can exist and both can build off each other, so that we have something to study in the future.
On a more like scientific level, in terms of like the finely tuned universe and like us being in this universe that's like perfectly fit for us.
Recently we talked in class about the finely tuned universe, and I think that's one of the most impressive statistics about the existence of God.
Which is the incredible precision of our universe, from resonance, which is the carbon formation, to the forces such as the gravitational force, etc., and the probability of low entropy, which is a number that is so minuscule that statistics would call it 0.
And that number I have right here, 1 to the 10 to the 10 to the 10 to the 123rd, is the wiggle room allowed for chemistry to exist, which is absolutely staggering.
It's 1 over 10 to the 10th to the 123rd. Sir Roger Penrose, who you can see in the bottom of the screen there, is a Nobel laureate and British mathematician who is most known for proving that black holes could exist. He is a self-described agnostic, which I found interesting as well. He said that the number of the precision of low entropy, the probability of low entropy, is impossible to even conceive. And even if we took every single particle in the known universe, which scientists agree upon is approximately 10 to the 80th power, we convert all those particles into zeros, there still wouldn't be enough to represent the 10 to the 10th to the 123rd.
How do you feel about that, Dan?
Yeah, that is crazy. And I remember talking in class, I was saying that that's the probability of that occurring is lower than the probability of me walking through the wall 90 times in a row.
Absolutely, so slim.
Crazy. And even that denominator number is well over the amount of seconds that have transpired in the entire universe. So that's really staggering.
I agree. And beyond that number, even the laws of physics alone, they're not as big of a number, but they're still so accurate that it doesn't feel random and allows for theists and believers of God to feel comfortable in their faith.
Like first you have like the resonance and strong nuclear force, which resonance would make it no carbon formation, and then the nuclear force would make no star formation. I feel like some of these, as well as the probability of low entropy, which is like the most precise almost thing you can get, and then you would have no chemistry before that.
If you just think about it, for the universe to be, to not have a creator, it would be something that's a random occurrence. It just happens. It's the difference between you going and taking materials and building the house yourself as an intelligent being, and then just dropping the materials on the ground in a clutter of whatever. That's random. Us building it, that's not random. That takes intent, and it takes intelligence to build that. And so the question just stays. We look at our universe, right? We look at the finely tuned universe. We know that these universal constants are exactly precise to bring us to where we are now, that we have to question if it was just a random occurrence. Because if you think about it, if it's a random occurrence, like you dropping the pile of supplies on the ground, it's not going to construct into a house. It's going to stay in a state of randomness and chaos. Whereas to achieve that house, the structure, it requires intelligence and design put into it. And that's what we see with our universe. We see intelligence and design infused into it through its creation. So we see that in the beginning of the universe where these constants were set, all these forces, like the force of gravity, the strong force, right? These nuclear, these constants, right? These forces, and so that's just the beginning of where intelligence was put into it.
These finely tuned, these different constants do further explain that how we all have a purpose in our lives.
And I know me personally, I get that comforting feeling as a believer when we learned about these numbers, and that there must be a method to the madness, quote unquote, of the earth.
Yeah, I get comfort from it too, but I did hear one argument that kind of challenged that. It was that in a multiverse where there's actually infinite universes, I suppose it's true that an infinite number of things could have happened. So it kind of, I guess that would be a way to explain why the numbers are so perfect, because in another universe, that number would be 0.001 off, and the universe would be completely different. But I guess it's still possible, so that kind of challenged that a little bit for me.
What do you guys have to say about the multiverse theory, the idea that there's possibly an infinite number of universes and we just happen to be in the one that could support life?
Well, I think one point is just that we need to understand that the multiverse, there's no evidence for the multiverse, and that the multiverse is just a theory, that there are multiple universes, infinite for that matter, and it happened, all those combinations have happened in an infinite number of universes. So there's literally no proof, and there's no way we'll ever find proof based off our knowledge of science and our limited knowledge right now. So it's definitely like something that people, that shouldn't be relied on too heavily, I think.
Right, and funny you mentioned that. I was actually thinking about that as we talked in class the other day. One thing Mr. Webb said that really resonated with me was that the multiverse requires a leap of faith, and it cannot be proved scientifically, which I thought is very interesting, because that's an atheist argument as well, that it takes a leap of faith. You can't prove scientifically for God's existence, and it's like you can't prove the multiverse theory either. So if that's something you believe, it's not necessarily a concrete belief either.
Yeah, for sure. If someone's able to take a leap of faith to believe in the multiverse, why not take a leap of faith in God?
God's direction, right.
I guess another point of evidence would be the BVG theorem that said that even though even if there was an infinite number of universes out there, they all have to come back to an absolute beginning at some point, and that doesn't like that doesn't disprove God in that sense.
According to the BGV theorem, any universe that is in existence, or any multiverse that is in existence, must have a boundary beyond time.
That multiverse would also need a beginning, would also need universal constants, because it's in a all the different universes would have to be in some sort of like space that's expanding if there's more of them. And so if there is space-time expansion, then it had to have a beginning. Then to keep these universes from collapsing, there have to be universal constants. And so then it's the same thing.
So there would have to be a boundary, and that boundary would have to be finely tuned.
I'd say off of that as well. I'm not really sure where I stand with the multiple universes theory or the multiverse. I personally don't think that's really realistic or in my opinion, I just don't really believe in that. But if that was true, I would say that even if there are multiple universes, they're all contained within God and within existence. Because existence itself is another, I guess, part of God, as God is greater than which we could think. So God is more than that. But God is also contained within, existence is contained within God, sorry. So I feel like these multiple universes, they're also contained within existence. And it's like the Xbox theory that Mr. Webb was talking about. The game inside the Xbox can only run as fast as the Xbox is playing. So.
Amazing.
Faith without evidence and reason is just a blind leap. And as I just said, faith is not a blind leap because we have evidence, we have reason, we have proof in the primary and secondary reality that back up our faith and make it even stronger. Faith and reason are complementary. They work together to create this idea of God that allows us to have the strongest faith possible while we're on earth and unable to comprehend everything about God.